Hey guys, it's cool to be back with part 2. I'm already in kind of a interesting situation. I got kings, I raised, this guy re-raised me, and going up against ace king, so it's a good spot to get in. I was just kind of thinking about what would, I might have been able to raise there, what was kind of the best way for me to get all my chips in, and I was thinking about just shoving after he re-raised me, which actually might have been the better decision. I feel like a lot of low-level players are, willing to call off a bet like that, even if it's a huge over bet. And this is the mini main event, so it's a lot of lower-level players. They're willing to just call off a huge bet like that with if they have a hand that they think is good instead of re-raising back over the top. So I probably, retrospect, should have just shoved it, and this guy probably would have gone all in with I don't know if you can hear that phone ring, but I apologize if you can. It's just something you got to sorry, I'm getting a little, my train of thought is a little off right now. Let's kind of do a small bet. If he raises me, I think it's a pretty clear sign I am yeah, it just had me out kicked, which isn't too surprising, but I didn't want to have to call a bet there. And maybe my bet on the turn was a little bit too big, and that made the pot a little bit too big. But I didn't want to have to check and call a bet, so I felt like leading out was a better plan for that reason. Okay. I don't like these early position raises, and I'm gonna call. I don't like calling that much pre-flop either, but I have a pretty strong hand. I have position on the razor, but I don't like these kind of spots very much. I really don't. I just feel like ace queen's a little bit too strong to fold. A lot of players would raise here all the time, but I hate these early position raises, and I feel like it makes me kind of vulnerable to be raising there. Although, it gives me a lot more information about where I'm at when I raise there. And that's something to definitely be said, and it, kind of prevents stuff behind me from happening. I wouldn't be shocked to see this guy shove. And actually, if he does, I kind of want to call him. Depending on what this guy does, obviously. Just because it's such a good spot for him to shove with a weaker set of hands than what I have. But he's just going to get out of the way. It's an interesting check. I feel like a bet here is actually somewhat strong from me. And if nobody has a king, I might be able to get away with it. Because I can kind of represent having a king. So, and this bet looks a little bit stronger because I wasn't the initial raiser. So, and with the 3 players, it doesn't look like I'm just fighting against this guy's weakness. It looks like I had to hit something because this guy's also along, so I can't just bet blindly into him, but, him having a king wasn't really his most likely range. He definitely could have, but probably had a lot of, Jack 10 type hands, stuff like that, where he's, he sees a small raise and a call, and he's trying to get some odds going in there, or he might have a small pair of some kind, where he can't really go up against that flop because it's really likely one of us has a king. So if he has a smaller pair, he has such little chances of improving, he can't just call down every street. So, you know, and my bet doesn't look like I'm just betting because I saw weakness, because this guy's also in the pot. And it looks like, and a king is definitely in my range because I was the first one to make the call, so I have a king queen and ace king, you know, king jack type hands. A lot of ace kings would have re-raised, but not all of them. So I really like that bet there. And this guy showed enough weakness on the flop where if he had a king, he probably would have, you know, let out. That's kind of the typical play. So that's why I really like making a bet right there. You got to find kind of those situations where that's kind of where I try to get a big edge, is you kind of feel the flow of the game, and you make your bluff attempts, and that wasn't as much of a bluff as I was trying to just kind of buy the pot a little bit, in situations that feel like they're just natural, but you know, it feels like it just, you know, I just hit a hand and that I'm gonna, but you know, you're really thinking deeper about what everybody's seeing, and you go, well, they're gonna see it this way, so I can actually kind of make it look like this is happening when it's not happening. That didn't make a lot of sense, but I hope you understand what I meant. I'm gonna get a little bit more aggressive here. Fortunately, I have this big glare on my computer screen from the window behind me. I'm glad you guys can't see that because I'm just recording my screen, but it's a little bit hard for me to see stuff sometimes, unfortunately. Hopefully that'll go away soon. Not to just throw all my problems of recording on you guys, but anyways. Let's see where I'm at in these tournaments. This one is just the freeze out. I am not going to be doing the super stack main event. It's $500 buy-in. I could do it, but it's I don't feel I haven't been playing as regularly, and I feel like it's a big investment in a tournament I wouldn't feel extremely confident about. I did play one satellite to it, but it would be an exciting tournament to play, but it's a little bit too much of an investment to throw out there right now. I would love to show it to you guys and see what I do in it, but $500 is quite a bit. That's probably about what I throw at. Probably a little bit more than what I throw out in all my tournaments on a typical grind. When I'm, you know, playing a full session of, you know, my bigger tournament schedule. And I have cut that back recently because I haven't been playing as much. There's two reasons to cut it back. One, I don't feel as confident about my game, and I can get to lower level of competition, and or it's two, I don't feel quite as confident about my game, and I don't want to spend as much money because of that. I want to play against a little bit easier competition. Those are the two reasons. I said them as one thing the first time. I am trying to kind of push myself a little bit and being aggressive and playing not a ton of pots, but maybe a couple more spots than I typically would, and just getting away from my timid nature of thinking a weird play always means they have something really strong, and you know, being afraid to bust in certain. If you watch my videos, you've obviously seen me make some very, very, very tight plays that I often am not happy about when I make them. I'm going to try to move away from that, and it goes beyond just that one play. It goes from preventing those kind of situations from occurring and stuff like that. So I'm trying to stay more aggressive throughout the pot, not get myself in situations where I'm trying to get more information from people early on in the hand, so I can kind of force them to show their hand a little earlier, show them what they're trying to accomplish in the pot a little earlier than I would otherwise. I'll let him have it. Kind of a weird play to make with King Jack right there. I was gonna try to 3-bet this guy, but after he does, I think I'll get out of the way. Even with Ace Queen there, I don't like being sandwiched in between these two guys with a hand like that. I feel like that's very vulnerable, and not only is it very vulnerable, just not a lot of value right there. I mean, what am I really hoping for to have happen? Not a whole lot of good stuff is going to happen there for me. So I'm going to have to get out of the way. You know, it seems to be the case that whenever I say, like, I want to get more aggressive, I want to start playing more pots, there's a pot that comes up that makes me look the opposite whenever I say something. Now, I don't think that was too tight of a play. I think that was simply a smart play. But again, it was a little bit on the tight side, I guess. You could definitely do something with that hand, and I didn't even think about it. But again, I think that spot's only going to get me into trouble there. Ace-Queen is very vulnerable, especially in that spot. There's some spots where Ace-Queen is a huge hand pre-flop, but that is definitely not. That definitely was not one of them. Haven't really raised that much. We're doing a raise. I've been kind of all over the place with my pre-flop raise sizes today. Hasn't really been a reason for that. I've played around with those things my whole career. Played pre-flop raises, and I've never really come to a conclusion of what's better when, and you know, I've gotten to the point where once the blinds really get pretty significant, I'm pretty much raising as little as I can afford to raise, usually. I don't like the idea of always making your raises the same every time you decide to raise. I've disregarded that theory because I feel like it makes your game really static, limits you. I don't like being limited in your abilities. It makes it so you can't use it to your advantage. Now, for beginner players or intermediate players like myself, that probably isn't a bad way to go. It's not a bad idea to do things that are going to protect you, such as always raising 2.5 or 2.25, or, you know, it always raise within that range or something along those lines. Those kind of things protect you, and there's reasons for them. If you're the best player in the world, though, and who knows who that is, and different people are the best player in the world at different times, but you know, it's another part of the game you can use to your advantage, and instead of using it to kind of neutralize everything as much as possible, you can use it to give yourself another edge, and play the meta game better because of it, and all sorts of stuff like that. So I do like, I don't like the idea of just saying the right way to play is to have the same kind of raise sizes. A lot of people do say that. A lot of people say, you know, you should pick one size and just stick with it for all the blind levels, and that way people, when you make a raise, people can't get any information from you. They can't gauge where you're at, and there's nothing they can do about it other than know that you raised. At the same time, you can't trick them because of that, and you can't make them think wrongly. So there's two sides to that coin, and you can kind of fall on whichever side you want. I would advise most people to go on the side of sticking with specific raise sizes, but I don't think that's a fixed rule for every player. You know, if one of the top players, like, you know, Phil Galfond or Gus Hansen or whoever, Negreanu or whoever, is playing in a, you know, 10-20 cash game, or a you know, one of these tournaments online, or a live tournament with a much smaller buy-in, you really think it's smart for them to just always raise the same amount and they can't gain any advantage from playing against a bunch of players who don't really know what they're doing? You know, I think that would be naive to... I hate calling in this spot. Jeez, but I hate folding in it too. Said I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive, so I'm going to try to be... I'm getting a little bit behind because I'm talking to you guys. So, you know, it all depends on what tournament you're playing, what situation you're in, and that's what every poker play is. Every poker play is not based on your situation, it's based on the situation in whole. Very interesting flop right there. It does look like a 7 or 8 to me, but I'm not just going to assume that. So I'm not really trying to put pressure on him all that much here. I'm more just trying to kind of get a little bit of information. Oh, I did get him to fold. That would be a situation before where I would be a lot more nervous to make a raise like that. But just by throwing 80 chips more into the pot, I was able to win a pretty big pot, and it was an aggressive move, but it wasn't that risky. I mean, the difference between calling and raising there was 80 chips, and opening the pot back up to him. But you know, there's a much better play than just calling right there. It gave me a lot of more information, and it gave him the chance to fold, which he did. I have a bad habit of assuming, well, he's never going to fold here, so what's the point of that? All I'm doing is opening it back up for him to raise. But you're accomplishing a lot of things by doing that. And I often cut off my own mind of thinking everything that I'm accomplishing and just thinking, well, I'm just throwing more bad money at it by doing this. That's too bad. That's okay, that happens a lot. I don't like this guy's stack size that much. I don't particularly like this spot, and I don't need to go ahead and do much, so I'm not going to. Got a hand here. First position raise. I'm going to 3-bet here for 2 reasons if it folds to me. One is to get more information about him. And it didn't fold to me. I actually really dislike this spot. can. First position, I leave myself really vulnerable entering it in any way. If I raise, I'm really vulnerable. If I just call, I'm really vulnerable. It's a bad spot to be in, and that's why I'm getting out. And again, I talk about getting more aggressive and stuff, and then I just fold. But, you know, this guy has to have something. There's no reason for him to raise where he is without having something. You know, he could have two queens. And he could even have ace queen, but I think the odds of that are a lot less than having something pretty strong. This guy could have something strong, although this guy's range is quite a bit weaker. I was going to raise and then fire out because, you know, I can represent so much by doing that and kind of force him to actually have something to come back at me. So this is kind of, what he did is kind of what I was planning on doing with my hand, even if I missed the flop. I would have been out of position, and I would have had to do it out of position, but that was kind of what I was planning on doing with my hand. But when he entered the pot, it kind of changed things, because just to get in on the flop, I would have had to call and have this guy have a chance to raise me again, or raise and having this guy have a chance to wake up with a really strong hand that kills me, or this guy wake up with a really strong hand that kills me, and throwing in a lot of chips when, you know, I'm pretty vulnerable, and I'm not, you know, I'm throwing in kind of my whole stack in a sense against whatever was in the pot, and I just, it's not a good situation to throw in, you know, 3,000 chips or 4,000 chips to win this guy's raise, the blinds and antes, and this guy's raise. And I'm really throwing more. I'm throwing in my whole stack against what will probably be bad odds if it all gets in. You know, it's gonna be, I'm gonna get in bad if it all gets in. So I'm trying not to get it all in, and figure out a way to still have an advantage in the pot, and I didn't see one. I don't like calling too much. Oh, it's not doing what I want it to do. I'm gonna make a small raise to kind of take control of the pot, try to get the blinds out of there so it's one-on-one. Well, I accomplished part of what I wanted to accomplish, I guess. I got a draw. Where did my mouse go? There it is. Let's make this small raise. For some reason my mouse isn't working now and I have to use my pad on my computer. Okay, well, it's not gonna work actually. Might have to step out for a second, but not while I'm in the middle of a couple hands. This guy looks like he has a 6 or something to me. He might be checking a 9, but I'm gonna try to get a 6 out. 6 or a deuce or a small pair or something, or a draw, like kind of those hands I'm trying to force out of here. You know, if he has a 9, he's going to call me, but I don't think he would have checked a 9 to me twice. It doesn't seem that smart. and I think it's hard for him to call anything else. Hit a 3, but I had outs and I hit it. That was a good call by him. I don't know why he called on the flop. Let's see, what was that exactly? Here, I got in a situation where it made sense to call and get in this big pot and try to hit a set. Yeah, that was a really weird call on the flop. And then he hit a 3, so I wasn't really thinking a 3 was that possible. But he made a good call on the turn. Maybe. I mean, maybe typically it's going to be a bad spot to get your money in. And maybe my bluff was just pretty transparent. I hope it wasn't that transparent, but maybe it was. I have no idea who this guy is or how he's been playing. I mean, Bovada makes it pretty hard to know that kind of stuff. Wow. Wow, this is almost something I want to call. Oh, man. I don't think I'm going to, but with 2 people behind me, it makes it pretty tough. With so many people in that pot, it makes it tough to call with just a pair of 8s. But I could see this guy trying to do that if he missed everything. Because nobody's tried to take a stab, and he can double up just by winning this pot. So it doesn't really look like a very strong play to me. Yeah. So it wasn't a very strong play, but he realized just by nobody really waking up with anything, he can basically double up. And I need to find a new battery for my mouse. The break's still half an hour away. I'm going to pause the video for a second. I'll be back in a second, guys. Sorry about this. Okay, I'm back after pausing it. Sorry, I had some technical difficulties with my mouse. I couldn't get it to work, so luckily I had an extra mouse right next to it that I could plug into my computer. Had to fiddle around with it for a little while, though. Yeah, normally I actually just have batteries sitting at my desk, but I have recently switched desks, so I didn't have any on hand, unfortunately. And this mouse moves a lot slower than my last one. It's not really a problem, but it's interesting. So I apologize for that, but hopefully it wasn't a big distraction. I don't think anything really interesting happened. And he didn't miss too many hands, really. This is just a pretty typical button raise with a strong hand, 3-handed, but it's not quite strong enough to stand up to a 3-bet, I don't think. No, that's not good enough to mess around with right there. There's this, in my opinion. And this has turned into a pretty huge tournament. There's 3,000 players in it. And $100 buy-in. So what is first place in that tournament? I believe it's this one. First place is about $70,000. So wow, that's pretty huge. Playing for a lot of money there. That'd be a nice payday for sure. But got a long ways to go. We've only gotten rid of about 500. So and every elimination gets harder than the last. much is going on right now. Don't really know what to talk about. That's okay. Just keep going. And I'm gonna play that from first. Not gonna play this to a raise. I probably will play this though. Or I won't, because I guess I pushed fold already. I don't know why I just clicked fold. I didn't notice I did that. That's what happens when you go on autopilot, fellas. It just, you make weird decisions like that. And I know I've done that a lot in these videos. I watched a couple of my old videos just to kind of see where I was and how I played at that point in time. And it's funny to see some of the mistakes I make. I don't like calling that much. But 200 to win 700, I think I can afford to make a call right here. Here's me trying to get a little aggressive, a little frisky. I put the wrong number in front, but that's okay, I guess. I'm not going to do anything. It's an interesting flop to try to bet out on. I'm not going to, but well, I didn't, obviously, but it's weird because it's not likely he hit something, but it's not, well, it does hit my range decently, but it's hard to get credit for that at the same time. That's why I hate checking there, because it just kind of makes that kind of a formality. I pretty much need to call it just because of odds. I mean, I don't like the hearts, but there's a lot in that pot. If I hit the right card, which that wasn't the right card, but if I hit the right card, I could really make a killing in this pot. And for only 500 chips, it's kind of a gamble that seems worth it. This tournament's also pretty big. This has almost 5,000 players in it. And it's only a $10 buy-in. $10 buy-in with a $7,000 first place prize. That's a pretty big ROI. I mean, it really reminded me of those old Poker Stars tournaments and the Full Tilt tournaments. I don't think the Full Tilt tournament ones were quite this big. I'm sure there were some, but yeah, I don't remember them having quite this much, this many players. Not from first position. There's 3 players sitting out here, and I have a feeling part of that's just because of the way Bovada plays it. You sit out all the time without realizing it. So it's not just me. I mean, there's 3 other players sitting out. It gives the casual player who's focusing on just one tournament a decent advantage. It really does. And I know Bovada and Bodog has always tried to cater to that type of player. I'm going to bet out mainly because I want to know a little bit about where I am. I'm not trying to hide the value of my hand. I'm just trying to gauge where my hand is. I'm trying to get some information. I have control of the pot, and I want to get to showdown cheaply. And I feel like this is the best way to do it, to keep leading out. Also gives him the opportunity to fold. And I don't see him betting on the river. It's not the smart decision to make unless he's got something really strong. It's a weird bet. It's a weird bet. I honestly don't think he really knows what he's doing. I think it's some sort of queen. I do think I'm beat, but kind of tough to fold here with the pot being the size it is. Oh, he had a set. It's a lot stronger than I thought he had. I didn't give him credit for knowing what he was doing too much. Maybe I should have, but you know, that's the kind of situation you probably aren't going to bet unless, I mean, he didn't. I guess he extracted about as much as he could from me, but if I had a really strong hand, he would have gotten not that much from me compared to what he could have, I think. I didn't give him a lot of credit as a poker player because it's a $10 tournament with 5,000 players. And that might have been a mistake. The bet on the river really looks like a strong hand when a good player's making it. Well, it's either a really strong hand or a bluff, and the problem is my hand was kind of in the middle of, like, it really only catches the bluffs. It doesn't beat the really strong hands. Problem is I didn't give him credit as a poker player, so I was thinking, you know, he could be betting a worse jack just because, like, oh, it's a jack, it's a decent hand type of bet, or something along those lines. It doesn't make any sense as a smart poker player, and but in this tournament I decided not to give him credit for making the smart poker play, which was a mistake, obviously. I mean, he had a super strong hand there. The thing I really should have looked for was draws that missed. That would have been really smart, and I didn't do that. There's a spade draw on the turn that missed, and there was some straight draws that missed. So there were some draws. He could have had 10-9 and tried to make a bet, or he could have had King 10 and had a straight draw that missed, or even Ace King. Ace King actually made a decent amount of sense there. I'm going to call. I don't love that call, but I thought I was running out of time. I guess I was running out of time on this table. Oh jeez. Because I am so short, I'm going to just call this and try to get it all in if somebody raises. This guy doesn't have enough chips. I'm just going to shove him. That was unfortunate. 2 different times. I'm just going to call and act like I'm just trying to get, you know, this guy, but I'm hoping the other guy comes along as well, and he does. I got a really good spot to triple up, an even better spot to triple up, and I tripled up. Back in the tournament. And if I raised, I don't think I would have tripled up. I might have. I could have easily doubled up, but I don't think I would have tripled up. You know, if I raise, I don't know if this guy had 8s, so he might have called, but I don't know if this guy would have shoved with his 5s. If he might have, because he was short and it looked like he just wanted to get it in. This is an interesting. This is always interesting when you're the only one who has to put in money before our pre-flop. It's just kind of a weird situation. So that put me from being really short to being in the top part of this tournament here. Not a very big tournament, but still nice. thinking about, no, not gonna do that. Make a kind of standard race. Whoa, that's not a standard race. And yes, I do want someone to go over the top, but it's not like I'm super excited if it happens. It probably just means a pair. But there'll be the occasional ace queen or something that'll do it, which will more than make up for the times that someone has aces or kings. I think I gotta go with this. That just does not scream a lot of strength to me. Just shoving like that, I would think if he had a really, really strong hand, I don't like that. If he had a really, really strong hand, he wouldn't have just shoved it. He would have tried to get someone to go in for a little bit cheaper. I do not like this at all. This, I'm hoping he has like jacks or something, because this looks like a pretty strong hand. Yeah, ace king. I had him. So that's kind of unfortunate. I kind of ended up with a very strong hand behind me, but I got very lucky. Hit it on the river, and now I am probably pretty much, yeah, I'm chip leader of this tournament now because of getting very fortunate there. You know, I got really fortunate. You know, it's just kind of the thing that happens. I think I played that, you know, perfectly, I guess. I hate to say I played something perfectly, but I only had 2 decisions, and it was the right decision. And that's just kind of how it happens sometimes. So I was very fortunate there, and hopefully I can make good on that. That's really what it comes down to is, you know, capitalizing on your good fortune in poker is really what you got to do. You got to capitalize when you got the chance, and you got to minimize. You got to maximize your chances, and you got to capitalize when you get a chance. Is really what it comes down to. Because really, no matter how good, if you play perfect poker, to win a tournament with 100 players, you have to get really lucky. Like, you know, even if you have aces against 10s every time you're doing stuff, you're getting lucky for those aces to hold up, because they're supposed to lose 20% of the time. You know, if your aces hold up every time, you're really fortunate. So it's all about maximizing the number of chances you have and capitalizing when you get those chances. Recently, I feel like I've been doing, recently as in the last year or so of my poker career, I feel like I've done a really good job of giving myself a lot of chances, but I haven't capitalized very well. If you look at my final table and like kind of my late tournament statistics, which I don't know if you can really even find those anywhere, but you know, I've gotten really far. And well, if you watch my videos, you can see I've gotten far in a lot of tournaments. A lot of tournaments, and I've gotten a lot of like 7th places, 8th places, which it's just gonna happen a lot of the time. It is, but I feel like I could capitalize better than I have. This is a weird spot. I kind of want to just shove, but I feel like that's a little bit too strong, so I'm gonna just 3-bet him. It's just a little bit too much chips, and this is a big tournament. Someone's not going to want to just stick in all their chips in this tournament that badly. If it was this one, which is the $10 one, I'd be much more willing to shove it in, because it's just $10. People are just going to go whatever with it. But you know, this is a really big tournament. People are taking this a little bit more seriously. Level play is going to be a little higher. People aren't going to want to just shove it all in as easily. Here I feel like I can. Yeah, I feel like if he has something, he's probably going to call me here. Oh, I need to call that, and I got very fortunate there. I'm getting very fortunate so far. Well, let's see if I hold up. Yeah. So far I'm getting very fortunate with my situation and what's going on. I mean, the first one was when I had the same hand as that other guy in this tournament. I think it was this one. And I just doubled up because I hit my 4 flush. That's too bad. I might have been able to get more value if I played it another way. I don't think that was a bad way to play it, and it was kind of the safer way to play it. But I might have been able to just call and let him try to lead out again or something. But, you know, my hand, one card can easily beat me there. You know, if he has a... I don't like being in first position is the big problem here. I couldn't decide what to do quick enough to make a move. I wanted to analyze that situation a little closer, but you know, when I don't come to a conclusion on what to do, I often just do the safe, get out of the way play, and that's what I did. I was thinking about what raising would look like and how the hand would play out because of that, and I couldn't think through the whole situation quick enough to give myself the okay to make the 3-bet, so I decided to just skip it. I think that's kind of the smart thing to do. Maybe we should have bet this one. Oh, we hit a straight. He probably would have called, especially if I made the kind of bet I was thinking about making. I don't like this flop at all, but I still... I love how I say that. Oh my gosh, I am something sometimes, and that's why I record these, so I can kind of... I don't like that flop at all. But I still think there's a lot of hands that he's going to have to fold. King, Queen, Ace, Jack, you know, pocket 7s. No, pocket 7s he might not have to fold, but just calls. That's not quite the card I wanted, but getting to see a free card there wasn't bad. And he might have just been on it. I could have easily hit that card. Yeah, I just had a 9. So that's kind of... Might have just not raised enough pre-flop. Some hands right now. Flip this one. So what I love about 3-betting pre is I can represent an ace here pretty easily. I'm going to fold that hand just because I got too much going on right now. Uh-oh. I have misplayed this hand, obviously. That was bad. I got way behind right there. Now I have to break. Okay. I could have extracted some more value there and left myself kind of vulnerable, but that was bad. I got just a little bit behind there with what was going on. So Maybe you can analyze what I should have done in all those situations. Um, but yeah, I can't even think through them all right now. So I'm going to take my break, and I'll come back in part 3. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Wow.